Hi, Berkeley. Thank you so much for joining me today on our Threeps podcast.
It's an absolute pleasure, Laura. Thank you for inviting me. Really good to be with you.
Not a problem. Okay, great. I'm really excited to talk to you more about the Diversity Trust, and also super excited to talk about our new partnership as Threeps and the Diversity Trust charity partnership. So really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really good to get into that detail and explore how it's gonna shape up together.
Absolutely wonderful. So Berkeley, you are the executive director of the Diversity Trust, and I understand you set up your organisation. Was it maybe about 10 years ago now? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's going to be our 10th anniversary next summer. So July 2022 will be our 10th anniversary. So we've been running a while.
Wonderful. Congratulations. That's great to hear. And so tell me, what made you set up the Diversity Trust? What was it that made you think this is something you want to do?
So I've been working in this field, so in equality and diversity, for decades. I came out as a gay man back in the 1980s, which seems such a very long time ago now. And at that time, we were experiencing quite a lot of kind of abuse, really, but it wasn't just on an individual level, it was on a societal level. So, you know, we had governments trying to change laws to make it not possible to even talk about being gay. We had a media, particularly right-wing tabloid media, that were pretty much almost every day having newspaper headlines that were quite difficult to read, to see, because it was, you know, well, hang on a minute, you're talking about me and I'm not that person, that's not me. And unfortunately and tragically, we had a global pandemic of HIV and AIDS come along in the very early 1980s. And so I was literally just taking my first tentative steps to come out back in those years. And that obviously made a huge impact on me. So it started for me being very much about, well, actually, this isn't who I am. I don't recognize myself in any of the things that are being said here. And also, it was quite traumatic, you know, to go through that. It feels like now, like having lived through a battle, through a war. That's what it actually felt like. You know, I came out and all of a sudden my community that I was coming out into, people were dying all around. You know, I was going to funerals of friends and partners, and it was just a really traumatic time. And understandably, you know, that motivated me to fight back, to want to join against, you know, this really difficult social challenge and all-consuming challenge. So initially I started volunteering. I was involved in HIV and AIDS charities, and started doing that as a paid job. That was around the early 90s, mid 1990s, working around different places around the country, around UK. And I was appointed into a role back in 1995, which led me on a journey really over about a 10-year period of kind of working particularly around inequalities and health inequalities, you know, so HIV, AIDS, sexual health, mental health, domestic violence and abuse, substance misuse. So I had quite a varied background over that period of time. And then in the very early noughties, so sort of nearly 10 years later, having been doing that for nearly 10 years, I was working out of Europe, out of the European Union, European Parliament, sort of based in Brussels, while I was living here in the UK, in Brighton at the time. And I was working on a health inequality programme, and an opportunity basically presented itself ironically, through redundancy. I was almost literally kind of thrown into the open space of the world and like, what do I want to do? And I'd always wanted to set up a training and consultancy program a company that I could run myself. So I did that for a number of years, just on my own, as a sole trader, and worked a lot in London, and did a lot of work around various parts of the UK. Then I had a really beautiful experience. I went traveling for a year, just over a year, and I went around the world, and I had really amazing experiences. I was very fortunate in that I didn't have to work, and it was a really lovely experience. And when I got back, after a couple of years, I'd been living at that time in the west of England, West Country, And it was then that I started to have conversations with people about, well, actually, I really want to continue doing this work, but I think it needs a structure around it. I think it's more than just me. And so about 10 years ago, so back in 2012, we incorporated an organization, two friends of mine and myself. We were the first sort of 3 non-executive directors of the Diversity Trust. And actually one of my friends is still a non-executive director, although I'm now the exec. And we've been working really hard over the years to kind of make this company have, an impact. And one of the main things for us is around the voice of the communities that we're trying to advocate on behalf of. And often those communities are less heard. They don't have a voice. They don't have the kind of privileges that many people have in society. So, for example, disabled people, Black and Asian people, LGBT people, deaf community. So it's really about championing the powerless, really, or the people that maybe have less power, less privilege, less resources. And so we do that through a whole range of different approaches, and training is a really important aspect for us, but also we do quite a lot of work with communities in specialist services, so addressing where there may be some gaps and trying to fill those gaps. So yeah, it's growing. And I'm incredibly proud, as you can understand. We've been able to achieve quite a lot in that time period, and masses in the last 2 years. I mean, it's grown exponentially, and I think now we're still very small. But there's about 40 of us now.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story with me. That's quite incredible. I can really see why you would have wanted to set up your organization with the issues that you've come across and your peers that have suffered from the comments and the misunderstanding of all these sorts of things, and why you've wanted to sort of stand up and have your say, but also enable others to have a say as well, which is really important. And things have come quite a long way now, but there's still certainly work to be done. And I think that's where your organisation comes in, really, to help people with giving them a voice, getting other people to understand, and all those sorts of things. And I understand that you cover the whole of the UK, and you touched on something there about training people in business about sort of all areas of diversity, and sort of helping them understand and be more inclusive. Could you tell me a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, of course. So you're absolutely right. We do work across the UK now, and out of 2 very recent tragedies, we have emerged to be able to reach audiences that are far wider than we would have previously. So the 2 events that happened last year that kind of created almost like a perfect storm for us. So in March, with the national lockdown and COVID and the pandemic, we had preempted, almost like it was some kind of sixth sense. But in 2018, we'd actually preempted and done a lot of work to put all our training online. So we were already ready to roll with online training, because we'd already provided that, and we're starting to kind of market it. That then was completely compounded by the murder of George Floyd in the United States and the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement. And it was almost as if work that I'd been doing for 30 years and work that we'd been doing for nearly 10 years as a company was starting to be put under the spotlight in a way that we'd never seen before. So just for example, we've recently reported on the last year in our impact report, and we had around 1,000% increase in demand in a very short space of time, which has led into 100% increase in our turnover last year. So it really has been quite a significant impact. And whilst we were perceived originally as a local regional organisation, we sort of grew out of the southwest of England, out of Bristol. we then were, perceived as oh yes, you're that Bristol organisation, aren't you? We then started having calls on us for much wider audiences. So then we became a UK. So you're that UK organisation, and increasingly, although we're reaching the four countries of the UK, we're increasingly seeing demand from outside of the UK. So we're reaching a much wider, more global audience, which is tremendous. Because I've been on calls. It is, Laura. It is fantastic. And I've been on calls where we've had people, very early morning starts in the US, people in the UK, Europe, and then late nights in Asia, and actually reaching audiences, and larger audiences. We used to have a limit on the number of people we would work with in sort of a space where we would say, 15, 20 people, because, trying to manage a larger audience and that, all of a sudden now, the kind of world of the webinar means there is no limit. We can literally have thousands of people on a call from all over the world. And in fact, in a couple of weeks' time, I'm doing a conference, online conference, which is going to reach into most parts of Africa, where the audience will be really significant. It will be a large audience. So it's enabled a very different and new way of thinking. And it was really out of those two horrific, tragic events kind of compounding. But for us, it's enabled us to kind of reach different markets, different audiences. And one of the other areas in which we've really grown or seen a growth is we worked a lot prior to 2020. We worked a lot in the kind of public sector and in health and education and schools and police and other public sector organizations. We worked a lot in the voluntary sector, voluntary community sector. We've come out of that ourselves. We're a non-profit organization, so we work a lot with other social enterprises and charities and things. And what we've seen a real growth in demand is in the private sector, so with companies and businesses, large and small, and it's really been enabled us to reach very different audiences. So, for example, we work with breweries, we work with bespoke handbag makers. Some of the clients, it's like I would never have imagined 10 years ago if you'd said to me, oh, well, you're going to be working with this, or this organization. They're based over in Asia and they're making these amazing, whatever they're making. And it's just been such a tremendous opportunity really to kind of share our key messages of inclusion and what that means, and how to be inclusive as employers, and how people can treat each other, about respect, so all these kind of key messages that are important for us. And one of the final things I'll just say on this is that one of the things that makes us unique, as well as being non-profit, is that we are also bring our lived experience into the conversations we have. So those conversations are led by people that have direct lived experience of the topic that they're leading on or they're talking about. So for example, if we're having a conversation about disability, that's led by disabled people. If we're having a conversation around trans issues, around transgender, that's led by trans people. And that's a really important value for us. And we do a lot of work as an organization, particularly around anti-racism. And that is led by an entire team of race and bias trainers that we have, and that's continuing to grow and develop as a team.
That's really interesting you say that, and that sounds like it's a really important factor to have those areas led by the people that have got those experiences, or they're from that background, or whatever it may be. That probably, I would assume, helps be more engaging and really help the people that they're speaking with, that they're training or supporting, to really understand what it's all about, and having lived those experiences themselves, I can imagine it makes it more relatable and more understandable for those people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one of my colleagues who's a trans woman, and she says we just need to put trans people in front of an audience so that they can get to meet a real trans person and ask all those questions that they want to ask but they can't ask, or they feel they can't ask. And I think that's a great approach. It really is important.
Yeah, I mean, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information with us. It's really insightful to hear all of this and understand what your organisation is about, and also to hear your passion for it as well. That's so nice to hear, and something that we're passionate about as well is our new partnership with you. That you are on board with us as a charity partner, which is really exciting, and I'd be quite interested to hear why you think 3Ps might be something good for the Diversity Trust to be involved with. What makes you think that it's something that you want to do?
I think for us, one of the main values will be the fact that you will open us up to different audiences. I mean, that alone, those connections that you make with the business community, but also with wider audiences in terms of the people that are accessing and going to those businesses for whatever they're selling, that alone enables more conversations, which for us is only going to be to the benefit. And if you can bring us into that situation where we're going to be developing those new relationships and actually partnering with those organizations and those businesses, that then enables us to have a further reach, a greater reach, and any kind of awareness of what we're about and who we are and why we're doing it is only going to be to the benefit of both us, but also to the communities we're championing the rights of, but also it will perhaps enable conversations that maybe wouldn't have happened, and it will enable those, doors to open. I'm a great believer in, if the door is there, open it for people. And because some of those people might not even know the corridor exists, let alone the doorway and how to get through that doorway. So in a sense, what you are doing is enabling us to reach those new audiences and have those new conversations and build those new relationships. So that, as far as I can see, is a win-win-win for everyone, because we win, the communities win, you win, the companies win. So it's an absolute, it just makes sense for us to be able to build those and develop those new relationships and reach those new audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about, is primarily awareness, opening up to new audiences. It could be that people have heard of your organization, but it could be that they haven't. But it could be that it's something that they connect with and you've got their attention, and it's just getting the word out there. But it's a different way to do it, because as with any charitable organization, you'll have other campaigns that you do, other types of funding that you do, whether it's sponsors or anything like that. But again, it's about diversifying what you're doing, and that's really important. So we can bring new awareness to your organization, and we can also assist with providing an additional stream of donations as well, which is going to be helpful for everyone all round, really. And sort of going on from that, we're really going to help with the partnership with the brands and the advertisers. So we know that we've got to get it just right, and that things have to align. It's got to be the shared values. That's what it's all about. So when we're partnering you with a brand or an advertiser for our programmatic advertising video campaigns, it's got to be spot on. So just sort of thinking now, what sort of brands do you feel, or the types of brands do you feel would be an appropriate alignment for the Diversity Trust?
I think it's really for us about aligning with brands that share our values or share our sense of purpose. And so, there are organizations out there who are championing inclusive practices. There are brands who are literally campaigning themselves around, diversity and inclusion. And if we can align with those, I'm thinking, for example, in the finance sector, I've seen recently some campaigns in the finance sector where they're really trying to think about better practice in terms of the way that the staff feel about working within the workplace, the way that their customers are being treated, but also actually challenging some of the discriminatory practices out in the world. And I think that, alongside major supermarket chains, for example, who are doing similar work. I've been seeing a lot, for example, around Black History Month, around Pride Month, around LGBT History Month. So actually those kind of voices, that amplify our key messages, and if there's an alignment that can come through that with a brand, then that's got to be to the benefit of everybody, because everyone's a winner then, because the messages and the core values that we amplify get even more amplified, and you know, that means that the communities that are the ultimate beneficiaries will be the winners.
Absolutely, and similarly, I have seen, in terms of, use the example of supermarkets, I've seen that as well, out and about, that they are supporting all sorts of awareness days, weeks and months that are in the calendar at the moment, which is really great to see. And from the research that we've been doing by speaking to brands and advertisers, we found that there is a lot of work going on in the background where they're looking, sort of delving deep into what they're doing to really see what sort of changes they can make, and reassessing what their values are and what they support. So I think this is a very timely thing that we're doing at the moment, where businesses and brands and advertisers are really looking at what they're doing with their CSR and their values and what they support, and then bringing together those businesses with charities to support and create awareness all round, really, which is something quite exciting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about, for us, some examples of where we've worked within healthcare brands, and actually, you know, they've really looked internally at how they're doing what they're doing and what they can do differently. And that's really been, I think, as a result, primarily through Black Lives Matter and the tragic events of last year. And I think that that's given an opportunity for sometimes difficult conversations to take place, but those conversations have led to some really innovative thinking. And actually, you know, if we can, as a result of that innovative thinking, create a world in which people are feeling like they're being represented or listened to or celebrated or whatever, or included at a fundamental level, you know, because if I see myself in you, then I'll feel like you are for me. And that's such an important key message for us. People need to see themselves to know that they're for you. And if you can just get that right across all your campaigning, then you're going to have a bigger audience and you're going to have a bigger market as a result of that. So it really is a benefit. You know, diversity actually, I think, enables people to thrive, and that can only be a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah, couldn't agree with you more. That's absolutely right. We're heading towards the sort of festive season now, and Christmas and everything is on the horizon. Does the Diversity Trust have anything exciting lined up in terms of events or anything for Christmas or the New Year?
We try to be festival neutral, so you know, we recognize and celebrate, you know, Ramadan and Eid and Diwali and as many festivals as we can in the calendar, but of course, you know, the winter festive season is a massive important holiday in our culture, and so yeah, we would actually absolutely be doing that. But internally, which is why I'm smiling at the moment, internally we're just about to put together a launch of an event, which is an internal event for everyone involved in the organization. The Diversity Trust has got talent, so we're kind of putting a call out at the moment for people to think about their best, you know, poem or song or story or joke or whatever it might be, but that's an internal event. But I think it's important, you know, we've had such a roller coaster over the last nearly 2 years now, certainly since March 2020, and the impact that happened after May 2020, particularly as well with George Floyd. And I think that, you know, we just need to kind of take stock and think, and well, actually just breathe, you know, just have some time to be with each other in a virtual space, because, you know, we're all over the place, and it's you know, difficult to bring everyone together in person at the moment, as you know. And so yeah, just have a bit of light relief and you know, a bit of frivolity and fun, and yeah, just give people an opportunity to kind of, you know, just be social together, rather than that continually, you know, work, you know, we're responding because we are just so in demand.
Yes, no, that sounds brilliant, and yes, very very well deserved, I'm sure. And yeah, I think we all need a little bit of a break and a bit of fun, don't we, after the last sort of 18 months or so. So that sounds really good. Just one final thing before we finish. I like to see when I speak to charities about how passionate about what they do, their work and everything, and I can really see that from you, Berkeley. And I just wondered, what's the most enjoyable or the most rewarding thing for you for being involved in your organisation?
It's a really interesting question, and it's a bit of a longer period experience than just the short term for me. And actually, what I really value is when I hear a story shared to me by someone. So, for example, in the last few days, I had somebody reach out to me who used to be involved with our youth projects. One of the first projects we set up, they started as a volunteer and became a peer educator and did some work for us for a while. They've gone off, they're at university, you know, they're having a very different life. And there's really that feedback of saying, being involved with you, with the Diversity Trust and the youth work that you do, actually enabled me to realize, you know, who I am, what I want to do, where I want to go with my life, and the things that I want to do in terms of shaping my life. And that's very recent. That message came through in the last few days. And over the years, I've had similar messages. People have reached out to me 10 years, 15 years, 20 years after I would have been working with them, saying, you know, you do realize that actually you saved my life. Wow. You know, you providing that space and that positive, being a positive role model, just getting on with your life, you know, as a young person, you know, who was 18, 19, whatever the age that person was, you know, 10, 15, 20 years later, messaging me and saying, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you. And it's those kind of stories that have the most impact, and why I know why I carry on to do the things I do, because I'm doing the right thing. And it might be that some people push back against what we do and think it's wrong or whatever it is, or judge us or however they want to do that. But actually, if I've saved one person's life, or we've been able to do that as an organization, doesn't matter to me what other people think. No,
absolutely. And then it makes it's all worthwhile. Absolutely, yeah. That's that I can imagine that is quite, I don't know if rewarding is the right word, but a real sense of knowing that you've done something good by helping someone in that way. That's really, really quite important. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Berkeley, today for your time. It's been an absolute delight speaking with you and hearing all about the Diversity Trust, and really excited about moving forward with the charity partnership. So thank you so much. Great speaking with you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura. Thanks for the time. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Speak soon.